Hello, hello. Welcome to the first episode of Close Red with Elise and Eugene. So, you might be wondering, what is Close Red? Well, Close Red is going to be a podcast where the insufferable duo of Elise plus Eugene talk about things in a way where we utilize our BA in English effectively. Hopefully. That is the plan, is it not?
Yeah. Sounds super depressing.
It is a little depressing because we are making this in a time of
turmoil.
in these trying times of unemployment, a weird job market, and perhaps we will impeach Trump. Apparently, they're thinking of going back on that.
Jury's out.
So, who knows what's going on in our world? All I know is that we are both poor, and we are making this amazing podcast together. Mm-hmm. So, Close Red will entail several things. One of them being a reboot because this is technically our second episode, but our first episode had an audio problem.
Of course it did.
Which we did not catch until we had finished recording and started editing. So, yeah, that episode's down the drain. So, welcome to episode 1.5. We're going to discuss a few things. Elise, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're talking about movies.
Movies.
My favorite thing. One of
they
them
really
I had seen but you hadn't seen, and one of them you had seen and I had not seen.
Oh, wow, I didn't even think of it like that. You're right. Wow. We really we really are out here educating and showing the world a lot of new stuff. So,
but we did pick things like on a certain theme, and I think we found one that we found two that fit together.
Would it be bold to say that the theme is hopes and dreams?
I think that's accurate.
Capitalism is evil,
and
kills imagination, and I think that
there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, well, depending on interpretation, I think in the state that our lives are currently in, it feels a little that way, which is depressing.
Yes,
sure. So the two movies we're going to be discussing today are The Little Prince, an animated movie on Netflix, inspired by the original French novella, and The Dead Poets Society, which is a classic with Robin Williams and cast of supporting white boys.
Yes, all the white boys.
Yes, we actually have a list up on our computer right now because we cannot memorize who is who, and we can't tell what their names are. Yeah. This is very difficult for us.
I know like the actors sometimes, but I forget their names. But they're all such basic names, except for Knox. What kind of name is Knox? Knox Overstreet.
Anyways. So, to start, I think we should give our listeners a little bit of a catch-up, just in case they haven't seen either of the movies. So I'll go first. I'll talk about The Little Prince, because that's the movie I selected for our little watcheroo. So The Little Prince, basic summary, it's about this girl and her mother who is very, very obsessed with getting her daughter to the best possible point in her life, which is what every parent wants. But like, lo and behold, she's a single mother. She is an analyst of some sort. I think she's like a accountant.
They
or
all
something.
kind of do that exact same.
Yes, there's a lot of numbers involved. And so her mother is really pushing her to go to this prestigious academy so that she can have a great life. I think the academy itself is titled Worth Academy.
Ugh,
very
iconic.
On the nose.
Yeah.
And the whole point is that she wants her daughter to become a very successful math-based career person and make money and be a superstar by herself, because her father is an asshole who is distant and stuff. And she fails to get into Worth Academy, so they have to go through some loopholes. They move into the school boundaries. And of course, Worth Academy is located in a very expensive neighborhood, so they have to get this like really kind of dingy house next to this like kind of haunted house looking as initially, property. And they find that there is an old man who lives in this property who is kind of looked down upon by the community, actually quite frequently.
Yes.
But he's quirky.
Everybody like runs away when they see him.
They don't interact with him. They call the cops on him, which already, strike one. But he's kind of quirky and he's different. And so while the mom is away at work, the daughter kind of gets to know him and finds things out. She learns the story of the Little Prince, which is very closely following the actual novella story, I think. And she kind of grows to love and learn things that aren't just math and quantifiable. So do we want to start off with what we think about this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I cried really hard.
Yeah,
so that's
too
kind of
cried.
what I thought about it.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, there is a scene in The Little Prince where the old man collapses. It's not really... I don't think it's said as to why he collapses. Maybe it's a heart attack or stroke, or he
He's
like
like
fell.
an old dude.
Yeah. And so he's hospitalized, and there's definitely a real moment where the girl thinks he might be dead. And so she has to learn to deal with that loss, and we had to learn to deal with that loss.
learn.
We were crying a lot.
Yeah.
That was really difficult. It was emotional. I was devastated. As was she. Not to be like taking this little girl's pain away from her. But it was devastating.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I had already seen it. What were your, like, first impressions of the movie?
Well, I think I had seen, like, all the pictures, so I thought it was going to be... This is very, like, I don't know, surface level, but I thought it was going to look like the Little Prince parts the whole time, so I was like, what the heck? When it was, I don't know, a different kind of animation. But... yeah, no, I liked it. I think that the message kind of like shows itself pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not like trying to hide it from you.
Make
you work for it.
Because it's like a story within a story. Within a story, in a way. Because they've like hidden all these different narrative threads throughout the movie. You have like the story of the original Little Prince, which follows the novella. And then you have the story of this girl who's trying to learn self-worth and value and learn to love things that are outside of what is conventionally considered valuable in life.
Right. I think it was interesting because when I was watching it, I was already like getting really stressed out by her mom. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, this is rough. Like the whole schedule of like hour by hour, minute by minute. And they talk about that. Like,
to quote Elise, fuck that bitch. Yeah. That's literally what you said in the movie.
It was like down to the seconds. Who says that? Was it the mom?
I think so.
Girl? I don't know. I think
I think it's because the girl was like, how am I supposed to do this all summer?
Yes, and you have all these minutes.
And she's like, well, actually, summer's not that short.
Yeah.
And I guess that comment was true because she did learn a lot. She did form a friendship in the summer.
That's true. But the way the mom used it at the beginning was very stressful.
It was stressful. I do think it's an interesting juxtaposition because the mom, I don't think is necessarily like... We don't like her, but I don't think she's the true villain.
No.
And I think she's
like a victim of the
society. Age. Yeah, and I think that's revealed in the second half of the movie. For those of you who haven't seen this movie, there's like a weird dream sequence where the little girl like gets in a tiny airplane that the old man next door has constructed, the aviator as he calls himself, and he like flies, and they fly away into this like dreamscape where all the stars are missing and everything is just this like corporate city, and this character known as the businessman kind of like owns everyone, and he like crushes the stars and people's inspirations to like re-energize them so they can just enter the workforce and keep working over and over again when they're tired. That was an interesting part of the movie. When I first watched it, I didn't think that would happen.
No.
I thought, because it was a little outside of the where the narrative was kind of going in a way, you know, in terms of messaging. Like, we understand that the little girl is going through her memories in time and kind of I guess it's supposed to be symbolic of the struggle between her desires, necessarily, and her mother's desires.
Right.
I don't know, but I don't know. When I first watched it, I didn't know if it really fit that well because the original story with the Little Prince, I feel like, is very much about loss, like it, and about people's quirks and how adults are very like weird and quirky and things like that. And then it just kind of hits you over the bat with this like very heavy anti-capitalistic messaging. I don't know. What did you think about that sequence?
I thought it was interesting. I liked it because it's not really what I had expected would happen. Because what had just happened before, he had collapsed, the aviator, and usually that's like the slow point in the movie where I feel like, I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know, but instead of like her like wallowing in this kind of thing, she kind of gets up and does something, which is very interesting.
It is kind of a reversal where she could have just been sad or something, but then she gets into a fucking plane and just takes off somewhere.
Yeah, so I liked that.
Yeah. It does make me wonder about what the true message of this film is supposed to be, outside of just, we should value these things. Like, by these things we mean like imagination and creativity and things that aren't careers that are not just focused on profitability.
Yeah.
Because when she's studying to enter Worth Academy during the summer, she's studying a lot of like math, physics, and chemistry, and these are all disciplines that people are regularly told in our society, like, oh, you should go into these routes because you make money off of it. But
and there's like an essentialness.
That is true.
Essentialness.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Essential to this film.
So there's like this constant reoccurring phrase where they're talking about making the inessential essential, and like how I think even the Worth Academy posters, like when they're in that hallway, there's like their catchphrase of the academy is like, oh, like be essential or something like that. So they're trying to turn these little kids into essential adults.
Yes.
What they're essential for is, I guess, up to interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty clear. I think it wants you to be profitable.
Yeah.
It wants you to make money. Yes. Which is funny because, like, I think it shows that we have this idea of, like, wealth, but we don't truly understand it. Because there are some characters that we meet on the asteroids through the Little Princess story that make a reoccurrence in the dream sequence.
Yes.
The two, I think, most prominent ones are probably the conceited man with his little, like, hat thing that he does, and the king. And I guess their little quirks are that the conceited man originally was, like, the only man on this planet, on this asteroid. But if you, like, clap for him, he'll, like, tip his hat and he'll become very happy that someone is, like, giving him praise.
Yes.
And he considers himself, like, the most handsome and amazing man on the planet. And the little prince is like, well, like, you're the only person on this planet. And he's like, yeah, well, like, whatever, you know?
Still the hottest thing
Exactly.
Here.
And then the king is very much, like, the only person on this planet, but he thinks of himself as being all powerful. And every time he receives a request or something, he'll tell the person, like, oh, like, if the conditions are favorable, then I can do the thing for you. Showing that his power is kind of a farce. So, I don't know, what did you think about these two characters?
I thought they were interesting. I feel like I couldn't immediately see like how well they fit into the story of like the main story of like the little girl. It's kind of weird, but I see how they fit, I guess, in the Little Princess story,
because I feel like in the Little Princess story that's very much an exploration of like the human condition in a way, not like this whole like creativity part. It's very much like, oh, like people are weird and they have these weird quirks, like the conceited man is conceited for no reason. Like, he is prideful with nothing to be proud of. While, like, the king is just, like, I don't know, like, an example of another insecurity. Like, he has nothing, but he claims to be powerful. Like,
in the context of the movie, they just also kind of seem like quirky characters.
Yeah.
But then in the dream sequence, they kind of turn into something a little different.
Yeah, they kind of change a little, don't they? Well, the conceited man becomes a police officer, and I feel like that's also very on the nose. Like, whoever made this film, which we could look up, but I don't think we are right now.
I could look it up.
No, it's okay. Do we need to look it up?
You can.
Well, anyways, I was just going to say, it's, like, very on the nose to make the conceited man a police officer. So, like, this figure who enforces the laws and, like, works to police the people is a man who is conceited for having done nothing in his life. Like, wow, the commentary here, right? And there is a bit of that, like, ridiculousness to the film, because, like, when the girl lands her plane in this dreamscape world, he tries to arrest her, remember?
Yeah.
He like goes and tries to arrest this child, and then the handcuffs are too big for the child, so they just slide right off.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like there's something there that we can analyze really deep dive. But I don't know if we're gonna go that far.
And the king.
And the king
becomes like an elevator person.
Yeah, like he manages the elevator. I think he's supposed to represent kind of like a managerial position where he asks people who enter like, oh, like what floor are you going to? And they're like, oh, like floor 15. He's like, as you wish, you know? And he's like, wow, I'm so powerful. I'm so in control of this thing. But in reality, his power comes from being in use to a bunch of people. He doesn't have any actual power over them. Which is interesting. I don't know what that...
Yeah.
Well, there's the businessman character.
Yes.
Who is just like some random person on an asteroid in a little princess story. And then in the girl's dreamscape, he like owns the stars.
Yes.
He owns everyone there. He's given everyone a job. So it really is just kind of mentioning how the rich just kind of own everything. And,
suck everything up.
Yeah. They just kind of push everyone everywhere and tell them what to do. All right. So what do we feel like? I don't know. Do you feel like this movie has like done something for you in terms of like its messaging and what you're going to take away from it?
I mean, I think it's funny that you were talking about how the original novella, is that what it is? It was a lot about loss and stuff, and I feel like the movie also kind of was, especially at the end.
Ooh,
not to be like mad spoilers, but I feel like, I mean, she preserves
the grandfather does not survive the grandpappy.
She like preserves the aviators like
book.
Yeah, and, like I don't know.
It is. Very
I think
much
it's still about loss.
Yeah, because at the end, there's like such a beautiful quote in it. What was it? It's like, first of all, to see what is truly essential, you must look with your heart or something. Yeah, there's like a quote like that, because your eyes can't see them. But then it also says something along the lines of like, it's not about growing up, it's about forgetting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that kind of applies to him. Although there's a line where she starts crying because he's like on his deathbed, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, like, are you okay? And she's like, well, like, to risk, what is it? You risk weeping a little when you're tamed or something like that. Oh, yes. When you let yourself be tamed.
Yeah, because of the fox. Oh,
yeah.
Fuck that. I'm going to start crying again.
I think that was a really good moment, because I don't know if we really teach kids about loss and about, I don't know, but it's such a quintessential part of our lives. Like, you lose friends, you lose loved ones, things happen. But that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever took place was a waste. Yeah. Or
wasn't real, wasn't meaningful.
Yeah. And you'll always have that in your life despite them not being in your life anymore.
Definitely.
Wow. I'm like getting emotional about this.
Love The Little Prince.
Alright. So I guess we should talk about the next movie.
Dead Poets Society.
I think you should introduce this one.
Okay. Well, Dead Poets Society is about a lot of white people.
A lot of white people, yeah.
Main contention, no. But it takes place at this private school. Don't remember the name, but basically it's just these young boys, young teenage boys who are on the path to essentialness. Ooh. And how their teacher, a new English teacher at their school, kind of shows them the different worlds of poetry and imagination. Ooh. And there's a lot of like, each of the boys has their own kind of like path and story.
Struggle.
Yeah,
some more than others. I feel like this is a movie that is like very famous, very a classic in a way. Like, it's been watched a lot.
Yeah, I had to watch it in my English class.
Yeah, I saw GIFs of
junior
it
year
on Tumblr for a very long time. I finally saw it. What do you think the message of this film is?
Yeah, that
There's
was
a lot
tough.
going on in this film.
Well, I mean, like, okay, well, what did you think about it when you saw it?
You know, when I had first seen it, I had thought, okay, well, I was working with previous knowledge, but the only previous knowledge I had was the part where Robin Williams was very much like, you know, like math and science and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
These are all things that make society run.
Yeah.
But poetry and
this is
literature.
what we were alive for.
Yeah, I had seen that before. And so I was very much going into this like, this is a grown-up Little Prince, you know? Like, I was thinking like, I was like, oh, like, The Little Prince was great and I cried a lot, but now I'm going to get like the real tea about how to do it as an adult. And it kind of didn't do that.
No.
It was, in a way, it was very hopeful but cynical at the same time.
Yes.
Which is exactly where we are.
Yes.
And I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know that going into it, so I was kind of taken off guard. Okay, well, I think we're going to work with the assumption that people have seen this movie, but if not, spoiler alert, it's not a happy ending.
No, not really.
The kids do not get to live their lives.
It's bittersweet.
It is very bittersweet, but it's more like a righteous sweetness at the end when you're like, haha, take that, you fucker.
Captain, my captain.
But, spoiler alert, one of the little white boys, whose name I don't remember.
That was Neil.
That was Neil. So Neil is on the path to becoming a doctor or something.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, you're going to be a doctor no matter what I tell you. And he's very much like Englishy boy.
He's an art boy.
He's an artsy fartsy boy. And he's like, I want to be an actor.
Yes.
And he auditions for a Shakespeare play, Midsummer Night Dream, and he gets the role of the fairy whose name I don't remember. Puck, yes. Yeah. Mischievous little fairy, and he fucking kills it, and then he kills himself. Because his dad is like, no son of mine will ever be in a play.
Yeah.
So yeah, he really killed it. It was awful. I was like, and then they actually show you, well, they don't show the whole suicide, but it's very much hinted at, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting like the hand and then the gun and then the parents walking in, and it was just a lot.
Yeah.
I was, and then all the boys spiral. The school's like, we must crack down on whatever the fuck is happening here. And one of the boys like rats out Robin Williams' character, John Keating. Yeah, despite him not really having done much.
I know. Because he introduced the evil poetry into their lives and everything changed.
The non-essential.
Yeah.
So...
But I think it was interesting. In the beginning, in like one of the like first classes, he's like, he has them all read this kind of thing out of the book, and it's like this writer actually measuring the worth of poetry. What was it? I don't even know.
It was like the first page of their textbook. He's like, rip it out.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot how there's like it's like a graph. He's like, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. If your poetry is not on this scale, it sucks. And it was something about, like, a message, like, does the author convey the message? And then, like, this... It was just dumb.
It was also just comparing, like, I don't know, even normal classic authors and just being like, is this more important than this one? And it's like, that's not... I mean, true. Keating basically tells him to tear that shit out because it's dumb.
Because how do you quantify the value of the arts?
Right.
You cannot.
Definitely.
Which,
the point.
Now that I'm thinking about it, as someone who has grown up in a society, that shit really sucks.
We live in a society.
Because it does happen. Like, we do tell people, like, oh, these things are worth reading more than these things. And, like, I think it shows that when we were, when we were high schoolers, god awful time period in our lives.
Yeah.
And, like, you would go to, like, your high school counselor, or, like, someone would ask you about college, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking of majoring in, like, the arts or humanities, and everyone just gives you that look, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that look, where they're like, oh, like, what are you gonna do with that? And it's like, I don't know, like, why don't you mind your own fucking business, bitch? Like, but there is something to be said about that we inherently see one thing being more valuable than the other, and that one thing being anything that can be quantified.
Yes, the essentialness.
The essential.
There's another part, I think it's kind of near the end, where one of Keating's colleagues is telling him, he just doesn't see the point in, like, telling these kids that they can do, like, art things. Like, he's like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Like, what's gonna happen when they realize that they're not Shakespeare or whatever? And I don't know.
He said something though in response.
Yeah, and I don't remember what it was. But
I just remember him being like blah blah blah, and he's like, "Who wrote that?" And he's like, "Keating."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I kind of wanted to know what you thought about that, because it's like,
I think we've all had that.
Yeah. I mean, is Keating setting them up for like
Failure?
any failure of any kind? I mean, I know that's not his intention. Obviously, he's
I
just
don't
like,
think so,
this is why this is important, but
because. Okay, yes, like, we're not all going to be Shakespeare. We're not all going to be the greatest writers to have ever existed. But that's an unfortunate reality that all of us have to make. But it's a realization that happens after you've already set yourself down that path, right? Like, these boys hadn't even come close to any of it. So how would he... I don't know, like, that's just something you have to go through, I think. You, like, the greats... I don't know. It's not
they're
really
canonical, so it's like, okay.
They were selected by a board of elite white people who were like, this is the best.
Right.
And you're like, great. That shit sucks a lot of the times.
It's not really like where the movie goes with it, but it is the truth. Yeah.
I do think there are some key differences between like the Little Prince's messaging in this and the Dead Poets Society, where... I don't know. It's a little... The Little Prince was a little more relatable for me. I'm not going to lie. Because, first of all, I'm not white. I'm not...
Neither am I.
Like, a heteronormative boy who goes to...
Questionable sexualities in this movie.
There are. We were shipping...
Todd and
Neil. Because they were, like... There was some chemistry there.
They were sharing their lives together.
They were sharing their beds together.
And, like, when Neil was excited about getting his part, Todd was excited for him, but nervous. And was like...
There was definitely, like, a domestic aspect to their relationship. Yeah. So, headcanon, they are in love. They were in love. They were in love.
Because Neil, rest in peace.
Wow. Okay. Anyways, well, that would explain why Todd has the breakdown in the snowbank by himself.
He has a breakdown.
Yeah, like, everyone else is just sad and mopey, and then he just, like, runs. Does he become, like, naked too? He, like, takes his pillow. I don't know where that... Maybe it's because of his vulnerability.
He was very
vulnerable. He was naked.
And he's, like, so quiet in that whole movie, and then all of a sudden he's just, like
yeah,
tortured.
He, like, stands up for himself. You know what? What was his name? Todd, if you're out there, be gay, do crimes. You deserve it. Your lover died.
Anyway, Little Prince.
Okay, moving on. I did think that the Little Prince was a little more relatable, because I think we've all been there, like, being, first of all, like, you know, kudos to UCLA, #1 public school. Yeah. But, like, also the whole idea that there is a #1 public school, that there is an institution that we have to work towards and sell ourselves for, I think that's really relatable. And I think that's a common thread that's shown in, you know, the Dead Poets Society. But I think the key difference is that in The Little Prince, like, it's a single mother, and you can tell that she's not the most wealthy person either, because there is that, like, they have to find that shitty home to, like, live in. And she's just working as a duo. They're working against the odds, kind of, to get to wherever they want to be. While in Dead Poet Society, it's a bunch of, like, little preppy white kids who are
rich. Like, I mean, there's, like, they have different wealth standings. Yeah. Like, Neil's family wasn't that wealthy.
Well, that's because he was, like, a doctor.
So pressuring him. But, like, they're all going to the same public school.
It was just a lot. Like, I don't know how much sympathy I was supposed to kind of dig around for these boys when I'm like, dude, like, that's a standard of living that I haven't even been near.
Right.
Like, oh no, Neil's dad is a doctor, but he's able to afford this boarding school and their house looks really nice.
For
like,
sure.
Oh no, I'm so upset about this. Like, I don't know. And I suppose, like, we could talk about how I guess there is a lot of pressure on these boys, but that pressure is simply to, like, perpetuate their family's affluence and influence. Like, they're like, you need to become someone significant so you can be wealthy and we can tell people what to do. And then on top of that, like...
It feels very... I mean... I don't know.
Like,
it did
the
come
burdens
out,
of being rich.
Yes, it came out a long time ago, but that is, like, such a trope of, like, this... I don't know. I mean,
old white
we've just
people
definitely seen that a lot in movies.
Yeah, I definitely think in older movies.
Yeah.
When the wealth disparity wasn't so big.
Definitely.
But it did feel a little ridiculous at times where I'm like, okay, dude, like, I'm sorry your life is so difficult because you're so wealthy.
I
And
know.
your dad's like, be this.
I think, because watching it again, I also felt a lot less sympathy for them in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
I do, because obviously their parents suck, kind of,
Yeah.
but like
You're
the whole,
supposed
like,
to feel
Knox
something.
Overstreet, his whole storyline was just pursuing this girl, and it was just so, like, who cares? Like, I don't know how that was in the same movie as Neil
Wait, you're right. And
being
that
like an
story
art
is just
boy
dropped.
and then also killing himself. Like, how is this in the same?
They don't even like finish it off.
Yeah.
He just goes to the play with the girl once and then his friend kills himself and that's it. Like, we
Yeah.
don't know anything else.
I mean, I know that it was kind of just linking them all together, like, based under this umbrella of, like, Carpe Diem that
Ooh.
Keating introduced
Yeah.
to them in the beginning. I don't know, but it's just like, seize the day. All these affluent
I know.
white men.
All these white boys being like, seize the day. Oh, like, that girl isn't interested in me. Let me stalk her to her house and get beat up by her
it did
boyfriend.
get a little creepy. I definitely thought it was
Yeah.
cuter when
Well,
I was in high school.
Like, remember when she's like sleeping on the bed
Yeah.
and Knox like kisses her and that's when the
yeah,
whole
on the
conflict
couch and
happens?
yeah.
I was like, that's a little rapey, boy. That's a little rapey.
Yeah.
I guess we were in a different era now where the Me Too movement has happened.
Because, I mean, I would have been much more interested in, like, a Todd Neal movie. Not, like, that I'm, like, I want to see this gay love story. I mean, I would.
Yeah. I
But
would
it
too.
wouldn't have to be like that. But I think that they were more interesting. They were definitely more interesting than Knox and Charlie, which was that other guy. Do you remember
Who was that?
he was the guy that, like, stuck up for Keaton and he, like, got expelled.
What was his? He had like a new
Charlie.
name.
Oh, I don't know. It
It might
feels
have-
low-key racist, so I don't even want
I do think it was racially based.
Yeah.
Also, the whole idea of them finding like an Indian cave.
I know.
I'm like, that.
It was a lot.
There's a lot of stuff going on here, and then they would like bring pipes and
Yeah.
smoke in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so your daddy won't let you be an artist, but you can just have tobacco on you like that easily.
Mhm.
Okay, boy, I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it kind of doesn't maybe hold up as well in some sense,
Mm.
but I think a lot of what Robin Williams, like, a lot of his dialogue is still very, like,
It's so
powerful in its own way.
good. Robin Williams truly, I think, was the heart of that
Mhm.
movie. Robin and Neil really like,
Yeah.
and Todd. Those are
Todd.
the three characters who like really held up the sky.
I think
for
so,
that
too.
Movie. On the other hand, I think the Little Princess cast was like impeccable.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Twinkle is barking.
I know, my dog
She's sleeping.
is sleeping and she's like
Oh,
barking
should
at
I
her.
wake her up? I feel bad. But
Okay, so going back to our movie stuff.
yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, do you think the messages that these movies are telling are like realistic? Are they accomplishable?
Mm,
Can we indeed chase after our dreams?
right. Well, I think it's interesting because we were kind of talking about this before, and we were saying that Dead Poet Society ends on a really kind of depressing note, while maybe Little Prince ends more like
Happily.
hopeful.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a way they kind of end in the same way. It's just like the tone itself that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because as you're saying, the little girl still like kind of goes through the motions of like
You're right.
being in the public school or in the private school and all that stuff, and so do these boys in Dead Poets Society. But they just have like a different outlook, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do think the scope of the tragedy in the two movies are different, where one is much more like, I'm losing a friend, and then the other one's like, my friend committed suicide.
Right.
Like, there is that distinction. I don't know. Like, I feel like I think you're right. I think they both return to a middle ground
Mm-hmm.
where the ideology is like, keep these tenets alive, make
Yes.
sure you know them, and you live by them.
Don't forget them.
But it's also like we live in a society.
Yes,
You can't.
we live in a society.
We're like, well, not Knox, the other one. The one with the slightly racist name.
Oh, Charlie Dalton.
Charlie?
Yeah.
So, like, Charlie is, like, quite literally the purest example of, like, live by these tenets. Like, he doesn't care about the consequences.
Yeah.
He just does whatever. But because of that, he loses his last chance to say goodbye to Robin Williams, right? Mr. Keating.
He just gets expelled from the school. So,
Yeah,
like,
he's just expelled. So, like, his life is now.
I mean, we don't know exactly,
waters.
but yeah.
It's left very open-ended, but it is kind of implied that he's kind of sacrificed a lot to keep to his ideals. While Todd, on the other hand, kind of like, you know, puts his fist in his mouth and is a little quiet, and then at the end is like, fuck you. So, like, there is a mediation there where I think the movie is telling you, like, be wise necessarily about how you go about your ideals. Like, don't be reckless.
Yeah.
And, like, you could say that, like, yes, the girl in The Little Prince is, like, also representative of that, because she does go to that school, and but then she, like, kind of switches it up in her own unique way and makes her classmates see things in a different way. So, definitely. I don't know. There's almost a messaging of, like, you should be a part of the system to change it from within, because you're not going to take it down by yourself.
Right. Fighting
from the outside.
Okay, yeah. I definitely see that more in The Little Prince. Yeah. It's hard to say, like, what any of these boys will, like, continue to do. I think it's just implied that, like, Robin Williams had a really powerful
impact
on their lives, but we don't really know what that's going to take them to do. Maybe it'll just be like simple, like they'll just understand, like when they have kids, if their kid wants to be an artist,
maybe
it might be much on a smaller scale, but it's
except
still, like,
the redhead kid who sold them out. He's a dick.
Fucking bitch.
Yeah, he's awful. I was so pissed at him. I understood why he should die. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. But I mean, I do think that that Dead Poet Society kind of ends in a similar tone. Maybe not necessarily with its scene, but like with its messaging and its theme at the end, where it's very much like, do not go too hard against the system because there will be consequences.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, look at Robin Williams. Like, he went too hard. I mean, debatable.
You could say he is...
But he did for that school.
He did. And you could say, like, Neil also did too hard, right? Because Neil probably only saw, like, be a doctor.
Yeah.
Or die. Like, or be whatever I want to be, or die. So, like, there weren't that many options. And I'm like, dude, like, yeah, like, it'll suck for now, but if you just survive, like, one more year and you graduate, you can do what you want.
I know.
Like...
It's really... Yeah.
I don't know. He was very extreme, and so he chose to not be a part of society.
Yeah.
And then the other kid was kicked out of society.
Yeah.
And then Robin Williams was transferred or whatever, fired. So it really is kind of telling you, like, you won't be able to do anything, though, unless you are a part of that society and you are trying to do something from within. Do we agree with that? I don't know. We live in a very unique time and perspective where revolution is constantly being called for.
Definitely.
But is it happening? Maybe a change in thought. I don't know. I think it is much more realistic, though, to be like, be a part of it, but continuously move in a direction that you want to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at our lives, right? We're college graduates who have a lot of time on our hands right now. We're not necessarily doing what we really want to do, but we are making a podcast because we have the creative bug.
Yes.
And we are trying to find alternatives where people don't pay us for things.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think Robin Williams' character was just trying to teach them, like, about the different kind of outlets that they could have. I think that's definitely true of Todd. Use poetry to get his feelings out.
Yeah. I didn't think about it like that. I guess you're right. Like, the boys were very stifled in a way. It's a prep school. They're going to feel suffocated. And they really found themselves kind of, like, liberated by poetry.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Do you think it's obtainable?
Well, the balance or idealisticness?
I guess both. Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think a balance must be possible because that's definitely what we're aiming for in some sense. Well, at least that's what I would be aiming for.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, like, how can we be a part of this society without conforming a little bit in some aspects, but like preserving other aspects for ourselves?
Yeah. That's true, right? Like, everyone wants the benefits of a society, but they don't want the negatives. And it's like, you're going to have to deal with that anyways.
Yeah, I think definitely. Because, like, you see, like, maybe too idealistic artists, and you're just like, that's not... we were talking about this recently, where it's like, yeah, you can just be a poor, starving artist, but, like, why?
Yeah, like, why? Also, like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to afford a canvas, or, like, paint, or, like, do your craft, and, like, buy food? Like, yeah, you can eat beans and rice all the time, because that shit's cheap, but then, like, then what? You know? Like, there comes a point where it's like, no, you have to participate, otherwise you die.
Yeah.
Death is the alternative. And if you're not a part of the society, then, like, who is looking at your work?
Right.
No one. Like, I don't know. But then I feel like we romanticize an idealism. So maybe that's what we should take away from Dead Poet Society, is not necessarily that the system will win or anything, but it's to temper our idealism. It's cautioning people against unadulterated enthusiasm and idealism. Or is that giving the movie too much credit?
I'm not sure.
It is difficult to say. But I do think that there is
I feel like
something there.
Keating's character would be very against that and be like, you should have, like, unadulterated, like, enthusiasm for whatever.
Well, I don't know, because I feel like, remember when what's his name, boy who killed Neil, when Neil goes to Keating's for advice, and Keating's very much is like, don't run away from your family, like, don't do all this crazy shit, like, talk to them.
That's true.
Start a discourse. Like, invite your dad to your performance so that, like, he can see what you're kind of trying to do. Like, Keating's is teaching ideals, but then is giving advice in a very realistic and wise way, I think.
That's true.
So maybe Keating's is the perfect balance, but then the boys took it too far. And that's when the problem arose, really. But then John Williams doesn't really blame the boys. He wants them to be that way.
Yeah.
Probably because he wasn't able to do that. Damn.
I don't know.
It is difficult to say.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I think idealism is necessary. I think our world is chock full of realism that can just go and choke.
Definitely.
Because it just kills people, you know, spiritually, emotionally. It's true, like, so many people out there just feel so dead because they're just, like, not excited about anything. And so I think some degree of idealism is necessary, and I hate academia's, like, obsession with the real, so that can go choke.
Definitely.
But I also think you need money, you know? You cannot live in a capitalistic society and be like, I'm just not gonna pay for things.
Right.
And it's like, okay, then you're not gonna do anything.
So you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, sorry, that's not how society works right now. Alright. I guess closing question, like, do you think you would have done things differently if you were in the same place as these characters?
Oof. I think I think we talked about this when we finished the movie the first time, where it was like, would we have just, like, signed the contract also, or whatever it was?
Would we have sold Robin Williams out?
Yeah. And it was like, I mean, probably, yeah. Because, I mean, I can't really put myself in the shoes of, like, affluent white males again.
A preppy white boy.
But, like, I think now, and I'm like, if it was me and I have the family that I have and they put me through for this school that was supposed to help me get farther in life, then yeah, I probably wouldn't have just thrown it away for, like, I don't know.
I feel like I wouldn't have, because I think I've been pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hard to say though, because also we're not in that same position. But like, maybe I would have just gotten expelled. I don't know.
In that age, I definitely would have, because I would have been too scared.
Mm.
Maybe
that age,
now,
I was braver.
Maybe now when I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
nothing really matters, but like
I think
then
maybe now I'd be like, yeah, I'll sign the damn thing. But back then I'd been like, fuck this, you know?
interesting.
Like,
I think I wouldn't now.
I think I've become more tempered over time.
Mhm.
More
Well, because
cynical?
now I feel like I can realize like I don't need like this Ivy League school or whatever to like get me through life. But like they don't
That's
know
true.
that they're like kids.
And
they're-
like Ivy or KMS.
Yeah.
And you're like, there are other schools out there. Wow.
But yeah.
Incredible. I don't know. Ugh, this is so depressing in a lot of ways. I think maybe if I were to suggest young people watching one of the two movies, I think I would push them more towards The Little Prince,
Mhm.
just because I think Dead Poets Society maybe is very much a product of its time.
Mhm.
I don't know if I could be like, watch this and be inspired, because everyone would be like, these are just a bunch of rich white kids.
I know. It was really different when I
Yeah.
saw it the first time.
I mean, it was a different time though back then. Not to
Not
say
totally
that.
different.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of conversations have taken
Yeah.
place though.
Definitely. I mean, I think obviously it's just worth it to watch Robin Williams give like an
Yes.
amazing performance. And I would say watch it for Todd and Neil, because I think it's interesting. They're
really
very
good.
interesting,
They're
compelling
foils for each
characters.
other, yeah. If I were to be like watching movies to feel inspired, I would be like, watch Little Prince.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Do you think we've said everything we can say about these two movies?
Probably not, but
Yeah.
I mean,
There's something. There is a little bit of a capitalism critique, I think, in both the movies.
for sure.
Because I think, but it's on very different spectrums. Where like one is like the rich people control everything, fuck
Mhm.
them, and then for this one, it's like being rich is so hard because you have to keep up the pressures of being wealthy
Mhm.
and influential and powerful.
Yes.
It's just so.
But I
two
think at
sides
the
of
core,
same
that's
coin.
still like the same like essentialness.
Yeah.
in
They're
them.
moving towards something, right?
Mhm.
There's like definitely a problem, I think, that like the creators are like recognizing, where they're like, wait, why is my creativity limited and like my resources dwindling?
Yeah.
Oh, huh, interesting. There's this one commonality.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is depressing. I mean, that's why we have like Kickstarters for people making video games and stuff.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it pays off. Like the dude who created what's that one game with like the Skullboy? It's like
Hollow Knight?
no.
Oh,
But
sorry.
that's also it's the one where like it's like really old age kind of graphics.
Skullboy.
Just like
Shovel
a little.
Knight?
No. That's a knight.
Sorry, I keep thinking Skullboy.
It was like really
Yeah.
popular. It's like it was an indie game.
This can't be it.
No, it's what was it? It was the one with like you can choose to spare the monsters or you can recruit or kill them.
Oh, I got this. Oh my god, the people listening are probably like,
know.
we know. Is it Undertale?
Undertale, yes. Wow, but wasn't Undertale produced by some dude?
Skullboy.
There's like a little Skullboy in it. He's like a character.
Okay.
Anyways, clearly
You
I
could
know
have
more
described
about-
it any other way.
Which you can listen.
Any other way, but we got there, so it's
yeah,
fine.
Skullboy was the first thing that came to my mind because of I don't know, whatever.
Smash.
Oh yeah, I suppose I don't even play Smash that often.
No, I don't even.
Sad.
But...
But the creator for Undertale, he had like a Kickstarter and everything. I think. He like or a Patreon or something. So he like
Oh.
quit his job and all he did was make Undertale for
Mhm.
like a couple of months.
Mhm.
And then I think he literally just asked for like rent and food, and then
Yeah.
all he did was like do this. And then look at it, like Undertale's everywhere now,
Yeah.
and it's like one
It's
of
huge.
the biggest indie games to ever
Yeah.
have gamed.
It's kind of depressing to see these movies, especially this one came out like 100 years ago. Not really, 1989.
Right. That
But
was
like
100
it's
years ago.
still the same like
Problem?
problems and like
Well, yeah.
I mean art I guess will never be truly valued until you're dead and 1,000 white people were like, yeah, that's good.
Well, I do think it's interesting that we do appreciate art in society. Oh, now we're in a whole different discussion, but I like where this is going. Sorry, viewers. You thought you came here for movie analysis?
I mean, I think these pose those questions, though.
You're right.
Obviously.
But we do appreciate art. You know, like, we watch movies all the time. We watch TV shows. Some people read books. Some of those people not being us sometimes.
Sometimes.
Although we've started reading again.
Yeah.
Albeit slowly.
Anyways.
Yeah,
it's like everybody consumes it, but they can't.
I mean, like, what was it? Game of Thrones was like the biggest thing for what on television for like years back to back.
8 years. Maybe?
Yeah, everyone talking about it all the time. Me being like, "What's Game of Thrones?" and being like, "Oh no, I don't like the incest and weird stuff in it." But like, yeah, I mean, it ended up being valid by the last season, but that is so essential to people's life and happiness and relaxation. And then when you tell someone like, I'm gonna do something, like, they're like, nice try, buddy. Like
you really consume this every day. I know. Why are you giving me shit?
I'm like okay, like, for example, my parents, right? They like threw a bunch of shit about it, but I'm like, who the fuck do you think wrote your little Christian song so you can sing at church? Like, someone who has singing ability and writing ability. Like, it is, I don't know. It feels very hypocritical to be like discouraging people to go into the arts and humanities and writing gigs, and then to turn around and be like, oh, I'm so glad I came home from my engineering job. Now I'll turn on a TV show. Like, bitch, you were watching that because someone made that.
Yeah.
Like, but, and I do think it's interesting that those questions aren't reserved for wealthy people. Because, like, for wealthy people, they are given the ability to pursue art. They are given the ability to appreciate art.
Yeah.
And then if you're not wealthy and you have those same qualities, you're given kind of like the cold shoulder in schooling and in education and by your parents and society. And so, like, the only people who end up becoming, like, the gatekeepers for this, like, world of art and humanities are, like, the wealthy people.
Yeah.
So in at the end of the day, the wealthy people are the ones who just control all of our culture. Like,
love that for us.
It's like, I don't know.
But it's weird because, it's like there is an appreciation for art because people are like, wow, I love this show, and they'll talk about it. But there's also, like, a disregard.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. I don't get...
I mean, the disregard comes simply from a profit margin thing, right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, like, you're gonna make that? Like, who's gonna pay you?
Yeah.
Well, like, clearly someone's paying for something because it's being made.
Yes.
But, like, maybe you're not getting paid, like,
I also think it's,
figures.
like, the fact that there isn't, like, a direct path for, like, artists. And I think that that's also,
like, how do you end up in a writer's room for a Hollywood show? I don't know. You just do it.
Yeah.
You know, it just happens to a lot of people.
It's not something that can be, like, easily measured and seen. So,
it's not quantifiable.
Yeah. So it's hard to understand and easier to reject.
People say that, like, becoming a doctor is the easiest thing.
Dude, that shit's hard.
Yeah. Dude, like, 80% of the people I know who are pre-med are struggling to even find a medical school to go to.
Yes.
Just making sure this is working.
Like, why is that any more, like...
Yeah, any more possible?
Obtainable?
Yeah. I'm like, what is the acceptance rate for medical schools now? Isn't it, like, near 1%, 2%? It's, like, insane. And people are really out here being like, oh, you're gonna be a writer? And I'm like, bitch, me writing on a Word doc is a lot easier than me taking...
actually just do that.
than me taking the MCAT or something. Like, that is a different story. Like, And it's not even like doctors are like that financially well off. Like, yeah, they make a lot of money, but then they're working a bunch of fucking hours. You're working with constantly sick people, so you're putting your own personal health in jeopardy.
Right.
And then you owe all this fucking money for medical school. And apparently doctors aren't even being paid a lot now due to inflation and things. So it's like, what is going on here?
We respect doctors.
Yeah. Oh, like, you can go and become an engineer for Google or something in San Fran, and you're making $70K starting, but then, like, your rent is $65K a year, so, like, good luck with that. Like, it just doesn't make much sense the way that people just kind of throw these things around. But you know what's the funniest thing? It's like, it's not even the wealthy people. If you tell people, wealthy people, like, yeah, I want to do art or something, they're just like, oh, okay, you know, because they see the value in it. And then, like, you ask some, like, poor person, and they're like, what are you gonna do with that? It's true though, we're all poor. And they're like, what are you gonna do with that? I'm like, oh, like, your job as a public school teacher is somehow much more fulfilling and well-paying than what I'm trying to do, like, go off.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I really ranted there.
Yeah.
It just... I don't know. If we keep... Do you think that we're going to end up in a period, though, where we don't have creators and things? I don't think so.
There can't be, because people are obsessed with television right now in, like, a way that I've never seen before. Because of Netflix, mostly, I think.
Streaming?
Yeah. Maybe Amazon, too. But, yeah, I don't think we'll ever run out. I don't know how, like, people's appreciation will, like, exponentially rise or fall.
Yeah, and I do think it is easier to create now. You know, like, we don't need expensive cameras and phones. I don't know why I said phones. But, you know, we don't need equipment to, like, really be making stuff. Like, we're recording this right now on the most basic of equipment, which is my cell phone. And we'll be uploading onto YouTube, which is a free service. Like, it's not... This is, like, a very easy thing for all of us to do. But it is discouraging that the people who are most discouraged from pursuing this kind of fields are, like, poor people of color, probably.
Yeah.
Because our parents are like, don't do that, I want you to be wealthy. And it's like, well, listen. Unless some of us make it through, you won't see any of us on TV or anything. So.
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot to be said about this topic. I don't think we'll be able to cover it all in this episode.
No.
But...
It's, like, existential.
It is. And we're very much...
It's like, why is art important? How do we value art?
And we're very much at a crossroads ourselves.
Yes.
About this whole conundrum. You know, like,
Definitely.
Do we just find a career? Or do we find a career in the path that we want? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the big question, isn't it? I guess once we starve enough, we'll just pick up anything.
Right. But I think it's important and significant that we are still, like, being creative and imaginative.
Yeah, and making this thing.
We're not forgetting.
I will say I am a little disappointed that episode 1.5 had to happen. Because I do think I kind of nailed the beginning in the first episode, which none of you will ever hear or find. But, like, I really killed it. We really killed it. We really brought our A game, and then life just kind of fucked us up the asshole with no lube. And it was rough. It was so rough. Fucking. Yeah. Did you see that one tweet today that's like, the only thing I'm fucking is stupid? I
don't like that, because it's true.
I was like, wig party. Oh, by the by, I say wig party instead of wig, and by wig party, I mean the party from, like, the 18th century.
Oh my god, that's
What's 16th century?
so
I don't even
nerdy.
remember. Excuse me? 16th century? I literally said 16th century as if America existed in the 16th century. Anyways, this is Close Red with Elise and Eugene.
We did that.
Anyways, you should probably come back because we'll have a lot of cool stuff. Our first episode was supposed to be a part of a series called Some Thoughts, as in THOTS, where we just, you know, talk about life and things and what we think about them. But apparently, God struck us down. It was cold.
God said no.
God said no. So we will be coming back with our thoughts, spicy, next.
Or spicy thoughts.
Spicy thoughts. We're both people of color, so.
That matters.
Anything we say is sexy, spicy, and exotic. Right from the get-go. You know, alternate title, Rice and Beans.
Oh,
because,
my
you know,
God.
Wow.
The racism really just...
The racial stereotypes, you can really just put it on. All right. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.
Yeah.
Look forward to our next episode.
Bye.